Hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome back to Sci-Finatics. Or if this happens to be your first time here, please don't forget to click that subscribe button to stay up to date with all the latest Star Trek news on YouTube. So today I'm talking to you about episode 7 of Star Trek Discovery Season 3 entitled Unification III. We had a lot of in-references and so forth to past Star Trek series in this episode. It was a good one. We had links back to the Unification 1 and 2 double-parter from Season 5 in Star Trek The Next Generation. And we also had some little references to events and groups and so forth that we learnt about for the first time in the Star Trek Picard series earlier this year. Quick reminder that Friday is the worldwide shopping spree day of Black Friday, and the Sci-Finatics merch store is no different to everybody else. If you want to hop along to my merch store and pick up a t-shirt, a hoodie, a cup, a mug, a cap or something with a nice Star Trek design on it, you can do that on Friday for 25% off the usual price. That's for Black Friday, the 27th of November, and I'll show you some new designs and stuff at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. So a lot to unpack. Let's get into this episode. So in this episode, we had the crew of the Discovery heading back to Vulcan. Although it's not called Vulcan anymore, it's now called Ni'Var. The Romulans and the Vulcans have reunified as per what had been previously set up in the Unification 1 and 2 episodes from Next Generation. That took a bit longer than what Spock had in mind, going back to Next Generation days, but it's finally happened. And since the Romulans didn't have a homeworld after that was destroyed, as we discovered in Star Trek 2009 feature film, and then obviously in the events that we learnt about in the Star Trek Picard first season, it seems like the Romulans and the Vulcans have once again put aside their petty differences and come together on a planet that was formerly Vulcan and is now called Ni'Var. One thing which was a really awesome little touch in this episode, spoiler warning coming up, the appearance of Leonard Nimoy in holographic form or view screen form, however you want to put it, where they used some of the footage from the Unification double-parter from Next Generation for Burnham to go back and watch back the plan that Spock put in place to have the Romulans and the Vulcans reunify. And it was a nice touch to see that, for her watching that footage and so forth, and the emotional response that elicited from her. I think that was a really nice touch. And the fact that they also said that this video was courtesy of the archives of Admiral Jean-Luc Picard was also a nice little touch as well to this episode. I think seeing this hologram of Picard from the past episodes really kind of ties in the Discovery series and the events that we're observing in this new season to Star Trek of old. And that's always, I think, a good thing if they can link current new Star Trek to stuff we've seen in the past. I think us as fans really love to see those little moments of canon link back when we see these threads interconnecting to other shows we've previously watched, whether it be characters or events or whatever. It just brings it all together for us. And I think the more they do that, the more it solidifies Discovery as part of the Star Trek franchise. We learned in this episode that the Vulcan and Romulan people, now on Ni'Var, were previously part of the Federation, but they left the Federation about 100 years ago to go their separate ways, which seemed to be a result of the burn. Basically, from what we are told in this episode, is that because of the lack of dilithium in the galaxy, the Federation expanded so much and had so many member worlds going on that the amount of dilithium that was available was spread way too thin amongst the whole galaxy, and they were trying to come up with a new means of propulsion to take a bit of the burden away from Starfleet and the Federation's vessels. So the Vulcans were going to develop this new technology, which was sort of similar to the spore drive, but it seemed like more of like a kind of like almost like a gateway, constructed gateway kind of thing that the starships would go through. Reminded me a little bit of the Babylon 5 jump gates. So those of you who are also fans of Babylon 5, which is one of my favourite sci-fi series of all time outside of Star Trek. Well, it seems like that the Vulcans were working on technology like this, which would allow starships to travel around, but there was a bit of an issue. They were having some problems. Starfleet and the Federation kind of ordered them to proceed with the technology, even though they were going through a few stumbling blocks and they think that that is what caused the burn. The Vulcans feel guilty. They think the burn was caused by them. They've got this SB19 data, which was part of that project, but they don't want to release it to anybody because they figure, well, we're all embarrassed about this because basically our actions caused the burn. But Burnham knows different. She knows that the information that she's been unlocking from various different black box flight recorders from the various different Federation starships mean that Vulcan didn't cause the burn at all. She has triangulated a couple of different points in the galaxy with help from Tilly, and they've sort of unlocked some information which now they know that the burn originated from a singular point in the galaxy. And that point wasn't Vulcan. So they want to tell Vulcan or Navarre, the Romulans and everything as well, that that this is the case and that they don't need to worry about, running away and hiding with their head in the sand anymore because they're not responsible. But there's all this politics going on between the Romulans and the Vulcans and everything, and it's all very tenuous and everything. So they kind of don't want to really make too many waves with this new information that Burnham's uncovered. So Burnham invokes an old Vulcan rite, which is called the Takal Inket, and that basically means you got to spill your guts. It's like, I force you to spill your guts. You got to tell us the secrets we want to hear. It's a seeking of truth kind of thing. That's apparently been around Vulcan for years. So unfortunately they have to have the whole trial thing. They gather a quorum together of Vulcan and Romulan elders to kind of basically go over the data and the footage and so forth that Burnham's uncovered and see if her theories hold any weight. And Burnham gets assigned an advocate as part of this quorum to defend her case or put her case forward. And this person who ends up being her advocate is her mum. Her mum, which she's been trying to find and everything, who lost her when she went through the Red Angel suit and everything in the portal and whatnot. Her mum apparently was rescued by some Romulans, joined the Qowat Milat, which you guys might remember from Star Trek Picard. There was the whole thing with Elnor being the son or the sister boy, I think they called him, as part of the group of warrior nuns that observed this sort of rite of absolute candor where they spoke the truth all the time, and they were highly trained ninjas and everything. So Gabrielle Burnham, after she went back through the wormhole and got rescued by Romulans, she ended up as part of the Qowat Milat and is now a ninja warrior nun. Go figure. It seemed a little bit out of left field. I don't hate it. I think it was good to see Mum Burnham back in the show again, and it was nice to see interaction and a bit of mother-daughter stuff going on in this episode. But is it plausible that this happens? I guess she's got the whole ninja sword thing going on, like Elnor. I was kind of waiting for her to kind of maybe, I don't know, tell one of the Romulan or Vulcan delegates that, you better listen to my daughter or you're going to have to choose life before I sliced your head off with my ninja sword. Like Elnor did in Star Trek Picard, but that didn't happen. Maybe she'll decapitate somebody in a future episode. Who knows? The other aspect to this episode that we got was the notion of Tilly being promoted to #1. I saw the trailer shots and I saw some of the promo material during the week, which had kind of Saru and Tilly talking. And I think you guys in the comment section to my videos were kind of saying, oh, Tilly's going to get me made #1. And we were kind of speculating and toying with the idea of who's going to be #1 to take over from Burnham, because obviously Burnham's been sacked as #1. And who's going to be #1? I wasn't one to maybe believe that Tilly was going to be made #1, because the logical side of my brain was basically saying she can't possibly be made #1. She's only an ensign. And I'm at least glad in this episode Tilly did say that in the dialogue when Saru put her forward for the job. But Tilly actually said, like, what are you talking about? I'm an ensign. Like, you got to be kidding me. Like, surely there's, I'm not the right person for this job. At least there was that complete element of being completely perplexed and shocked and dismayed that, Saru had even suggested her for this role. So I'm glad they at least had that element in this episode. Is Tilly the right person for the job? Half of me says yes and half of me says no, and I'll explain why. The side of me that loves the quirky Tilly banter Those little quirky moments that Tilly has where she's a little bit awkward and a little bit self-conscious, puts her foot in her mouth sometimes. The moments of opportunity that's going to present with her as first officer, I think, open the show up to some really great moments of humour with Tilly kind of fumbling her way through the first officer's role. I think that side of me says, yep, bring it on, that's going to be good. And the other side of me that is the more logical, thinking about the chain of command and how Starfleet and the Federation works, is like, there's no way she should be first officer. She didn't finish the command training program. She's only just been promoted to ensign. She was a cadet in the first season. She's only basically had like maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years tops, as an ensign on board, essentially her first starship, because she was a cadet previously. She no way has enough field experience to be promoted to first officer. And Saru's reasoning for promoting her to first officer was something along the lines of, we've travelled 900 years into the future and you've done this and we've come through the portal and I think you qualify. Well, hang on. By that logic, surely Gene, the guy who scrapes up the guts off the floor of the Spore Drive control room, he's come through 900 years into the future. He's come through all this stuff, the same as all the other crew have. Why not make him first officer by that logic? So Saru's logic was a little bit flawed. I know he's kind of been grooming her over the last few episodes, and I know there's been those bonding moments between Saru and Tilly that have been established right from the second episode of the show. And I think that's fantastic. I can see where that was definitely going. It's a bit premature. I think, maybe if it had been, a season or two later and Tilly was at least promoted to lieutenant, maybe there was other people that were more qualified. I was thinking Lieutenant Willer, as a 32nd century representative of the Federation, would have been a far better choice for Saru to make first officer. They need a kind of a local present-day representative on board the ship to kind of guide them through everything they have to manage, and I thought Lieutenant Willer might have been the first officer. Somebody in the comment section of my videos even said, Lieutenant Nahn, who left the show a couple of episodes back, would have made a good first officer. I think all the other bridge officers are probably a little bit too junior as well. They're all kind of junior grade lieutenants. I don't think any of them probably would have jumped out as being first officer material either. And they're kind of all got their stations on the bridge. So you sort of can't take Owo or Detmer or Reese or Bryce or whatever off their stations because they're kind of got their jobs on the bridge. I guess from that point of view, it made sense to have her be bumped up to first officer. Saru did say that it was a temporary position or acting position with Tilly as first officer. It wasn't a permanent promotion. It's sort of like, okay, until we get a better person, or reassign somebody, this is going to be your temporary job. So by the end of the season, we'll have a dedicated first officer, whether that be Burnham again, but I don't know. The big burn going on here isn't with all the warp drive and the dilithium, but the big burn is what Burnham's doing to her career by disobeying commanding officers constantly and getting herself demoted all the time. Yeah, who knows whether Burnham will ever end up as first officer again. Maybe, maybe not. We shall have to wait and see. So all in all, I really enjoyed this episode of Discovery. It had some good bits. Great to see Spock in it again. Great to see some old clips from Next Generation pop up in there in that holographic communication form that Burnham brings up on the computer archives or whatever. And good to see some of the Coat Malat stuff from Star Trek Picard coming back into the show and everything, and them using that. But what did you guys think? Did you enjoy the episode? Did you enjoy it? What do you think of Tilly being bumped up to number one? Do you think that just doesn't make any sense at all? Or it's like, yep, love Tilly. She's a great character, super quirky, is going to make for some great moments. I'm all for having her as number one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Guys, just a reminder that with the Black Friday sales on the 27th of November, tomorrow, 25% off in my merch store. Brand new design I've got in there, which is a Lower Decks themed design with the Lower Deckers all sharing a margarita and saying I'm on buffer time. So I love the concept of buffer time with the overestimation of your duties so that you can finish a bit early and then put your feet up and relax with a margarita. Scotty obviously made this famous. He'd be became known as a miracle worker because of it. And I just love that concept from Lower Decks. I made a t-shirt out of it. So yeah, hope you enjoy it. Please don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe. And I'll see you guys in a couple of days' time for my review of the episode 8 trailer and sneak peek scene. I'll see you then.